Hello and welcome to Betfred's Football Show. Former England goalkeeper Paul Robinson is alongside me. And you can see behind us, this is what we're going to be talking about. It starts a week on Sunday, but before then, we have got a round of Premier League matches. That's why it's the strangest ever build-up to a World Cup, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been quite subdued, hasn't it? As you say, we've got a fantastic weekend of matches coming up, and then I think the hype will probably start and we'll look forward to the World Cup properly. Gone are the days now where you're not sat in a beer garden in your shorts and T-shirt watching this World Cup.
Well, it's quite mild.
And it's quite mild there if you're in Qatar. But I think, we've not seen England flags on cars. We've not seen England flags hanging out houses yet. I don't think World Cup fever's actually quite gripped yet. Maybe once we get past this weekend's Premier League fixtures, the tournament starts, England hopefully fingers crossed, get a win in the first game. We can start looking forward to it with anticipation.
Well, Gareth Southgate has named his squad. Matt has got the details.
Here it is then, Gareth Southgate's 26-man squad with a task of bringing the Coupe du Monde back to these shores just prior to Christmas. The goalkeepers, as you would expect, Jordan Pickford likely to have the #1 jersey with able deputies in Aaron Ramsdale and Nick Pope. We move on to the defence. Trent Alexander-Arnold is in. Where will he play? Will he play in midfield? Does Gareth Southgate trust him at right back when he's got the likes of Kyle Walker, Ben White and Kieran Trippier in there as well? Connor Cody, Eric Dyer, Harry Maguire is in, despite a lack of playing time for his club. Luke Shaw, the only left-back, although Kieran Trippier can, of course, play there. And John Stones as well, alongside Trippier, Walker and Ben White. Great to have him included after the season he is having for Arsenal. The midfielders, well, two names you expect to be two of the first on the team sheet, Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice, are obviously in. Conor Gallagher, a slight surprise name from Chelsea. He's made a late run into the squad. Jordan Henderson, the experience and camaraderie that he brings, he is in. Alongside Mason Mount and Kelvin Phillips. Mason Mount struggling for form. Gareth Southgate trusts him, though, as he does Calvin Phillips, despite not many play minutes for Man City this season. And then the forward line. Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Harry Kane, of course, the captain. James Maddison, big news was his inclusion in the 26-man squad. Great run of form for Marcus Rashford sees him get in the lineup as well. Bukayo Saka, Raheem Sterling and Callum Wilson from Newcastle, an informed sides in Europe. He's been banging the goals in for them and he takes that final forward spot. Probably ahead of even Tony, who might feel a little bit hard done by that he isn't in the squad. There we are then, 26 men taken to Qatar. How are they going to fare this weekend though? Can they go into this weekend's games with the handbrake on, knowing they'll be playing for their country in just a few days' time?
Well, Callum Wilson is not playing for Newcastle this weekend. Well, he's a doubtful at the moment. With illness is Callum Wilson, but it won't keep him out of the England squad. Right, your immediate reaction to that England squad?
There's no real surprise, is there? I mean, you look at the media outlets, Sky and other TV outlets, they've tried to overhype certain players that have not been in. Ivan Toney's probably one that you could probably, with his record, his numbers this year, probably unfortunate to miss out. It was probably a straight head-to-head listening to Gareth Southgate between him and Callum Wilson as to who went. The only thing with Callum Wilson is his fitness, as we know. Can they keep him fit for a whole length of a tournament? But he's not going to play, in all honesty. He's going to come off the bench. He's going to have cameo roles off the bench. The only issue for me in that squad is if Kane gets injured, Callum Wilson's injured, you've got Marcus Rashford playing up front as a 9. They're your options. But I think where he's not taken that many strikers because he's had to have cover in other areas. He's got so many doubts and worries of injured players in other areas. But in all honesty, I don't think there's any surprises in that squad. I think it's pretty much what we would have expected to see.
What about the AC Milan centre-back, Tomori? Could he feel a bit unlucky not to be in the squad? Because if you look, Kyle Walker, obviously, fitness issues. Harry Maguire, not played lots this season.
Oh, you make a great point. And Gareth always said from day dot he's going to pick players who are playing well and in form. Harry Maguire's not one of those players. Kyle Walker, injured out, as we know. Whether he plays 3 or 4, Eric Dyer has been one of the best. Connor Cody, it made him hugely improved this year. But for me, Tomori gives them something else. You make a really, really good point with Tomori because he's got pace. You look at the other centre-halves or any of the defenders in that selection there. Kyle Walker is the only one that could play centre-half that has got real pace. And Tomori's got a left foot. Tomori can play on the left side of the back 3 or 4. So I think he's probably one that would actually strengthen the squad that's not in it. Other than that, but then you argue who you take out. He's not going to take out Maguire because he likes him and he trusts him. Eric Dyer, he's deserved his place. Connor Cody and John Stones have earned the place as centre-halves. So it was probably a close one with Tomori, but he's the only one that gives them something different that's missed out, I think.
A few doubts over him, and someone you know as well, Calvin Phillips. He was superb at the Euros, only 4 games this season, and obviously got a few minutes under his belt for the first time since mid-September, midweek in the EFL Cup. Look, you can see why he's taking Calvin Phillips, because he was integral in that run in the Euros, wasn't he?
Oh, that year, I mean, he was England's Player of the Year that year, and he was integral, but what you say, he's not played a lot of football. He's hardly played any football. But you saw what Gareth said in his interviews when he announced the squad. You look at the cover that he's got in that area. Declan Rice is a shoe and he plays. If Declan's not fit, you've got Jordan Henderson, who can play in that position, but is not necessarily his favoured position. Jude Bellingham is not necessarily his favoured position, whereas Calvin Phillips is either a direct replacement for or will play alongside Declan Rice. 7 games. If you're going to win the World Cup, you need 7 games. Calvin can't miss the whole first half of the season and then be expected to play 7 games. So he, like others, will be a bit part player in this squad.
But you can get some minutes under his belt, can't you, against Iran and Wales and USA?
Well, it might not be that easy. I think, you look at the Iranians as you look at that game, you think it should be a walkover for England. But defensively, they'll be very strong. They'll be hard for England to break down. England's problem, and it has been in the Nations League, is creativity and scoring goals. Iran will park the bus and make it very difficult for England. Wales, England, it's a local game. It's a national game, national importance. And you look at what Scotland did in the Euros. Scotland were poor against England. They upped the game and they got a draw. The American team, they're no pushover. Pulisic, Tyler Adams.
But you'd expect them
Aronson.
to qualify, wouldn't you?
They have to qualify. You look at the quality they've got, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as
they're odds on to top the group. So, you would expect there could be an opportunity to get some minutes under the belt in these games.
The manager won't think like that. Listen, this is the manager's last opportunity at a tournament. If he wins or he doesn't succeed, I think this is his last opportunity at a tournament. What he's done since the Euros, I think the team's regressed results-wise, performance-wise. What he's tried in a forward area hasn't worked. So I think we'll see him go back to what worked for him in the Euros. I think we'll go back to seeing him play a back 4, 2 holding midfielders and the 2 players in behind Harry Kane, because that's what's previously worked for him at tournament football, and what he's done since then hasn't.
Right, you've picked what you think is your best 11 out of the squad. Right, I don't think there's a debate. Pickford gets the spot.
Yeah, Pickford plays.
So you're going for Walker, Dyer, Stones, Trippier, Rice, I think it's a definite. Bellingham, Foden, Saka, Sterling, Kane. Right, talk us through your starting 11 then.
Well, I think he'll play 4 at the back, and I don't think we need the 2 holding midfielders. We see Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips play there, or Jude Bellingham in a deeper role. We're playing against, like we said there, it's not going to be easy, but we're playing against Iran, America and Wales. They're teams that we should be causing problems. We don't need to worry about what problems they're going to cause us. We've got far too much attacking quality that we can put on the pitch to worry about having 2 holding midfielders. Bellingham and Foden are better occupied further up the field rather than a defensive role. That defence and Declan Rice is more than capable of coping with anything that they're going to play against. And for me, Saka has to play. He's been so good for Arsenal this year, coming in off that right-hand side, and play players in their strongest position. I did this in the office earlier, and I was umming and ahhing as to whether to play Sterling or not, because I think he's been poor this year. He's not scored since August. It was very close for me between Sterling and Grealish, and I actually put Sterling in because of what he's done for England, and that's what I think the manager will go with. But I think it was going to be touch and go whether it was him or Grealish that plays, and Marcus Rashford as well, because I think he's
playing really well.
Yeah,
good goal last night. Arsenal fans might be shouting it as well for Ben White.
He's been brilliant this year, and I think his versatility is what's got him into the squad. The 2 fullbacks for me, Kyle Walker plays if he's fit with his pace and what he gives you going forward. Left back, Luke Shaw's not been playing, not in form, and for me, Kieran Trippier can play there. You look at Cancelo at Manchester City, you talk about a right-sided player playing left-sided, Kieran Trippier can give you that, and he gives you the delivery from set plays as well. So, and I think the defensive stability and robustness is what's needed, and their defensive qualities are better than others. But Ben White, for me, gets into the squad because he can play right back, centre half, holding midfield, one of a back 3, and I think he's been excellent this year for Arsenal.
So the World Cup begins a week on Sunday, but there's a full round of Premier League fixtures to look forward to. Yes, so plenty of drama to look forward to in the Premier League this weekend. Some good games as well.
Yeah.
2 of your former clubs meeting, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Yeah, but it's a stage weekend this weekend, isn't it? We know that the top 6 have been asked to avoid each other. So it's as much as we love the openness and the competition of the Premier League, this weekend it's almost a little bit false because the top 6 have avoided each other. But there are some cracking games in there.
And any official that's going to the World Cup is not officiating a game this weekend, but the players are still playing. Here's Matt.
The final weekend of Premier League action before we head to Qatar for the World Cup. What lies in store for us? Well, City can go top for a few hours at least if they get the better of Brentford this lunchtime. We've got Bournemouth taking on Everton, of course, a few days after Bournemouth's 4-1 win in the third round of the League Cup. Liverpool host Southampton. Nathan Jones, the new man, of course, at St Mary's, will the new manager syndrome kick in for the Saints at Anfield. Crystal Palace are favourites as well after their last-minute win last weekend as they travel to Nottingham Forest. And a penny for Spurs' thoughts right now. Not in the greatest of form at all, are they? Disappointed in midweek with a strong side. Take on Leeds, who are absolutely flying. That'll be entertaining for sure. West Ham also host Leicester. Look at that for your goals galore coupon. Both teams love scoring in that fixture. And then the tea time game sees Newcastle taking on Chelsea. What a game that is. Look at this. Newcastle favourites to beat Chelsea at St James's Park. Who'd have thought that a month or so ago? And then Saturday night, under lights at Molineux, a evening game as Wolves host Arsenal. Victory for Arsenal, and they know they will go into the World Cup top of the Premier League table. And 2 games on Sunday. Brighton take on Aston Villa. Unai Emery looking for back-to-back Premier League wins as a new manager at Villa. Tough ask, they're going to Brighton, who are in good form. And then Fulham, so unlucky last weekend at the Etihad, conceding that last-minute winner from the penalty spot, host a Man Utd side looking to bounce back from defeat at Villa Park. Another 10 fascinating games in the Premier League. And after this, it's all stopped because we're off to Qatar.
Cheers, Matt. Right, let's talk about that early kickoff. Man City versus Brentford. Man City had to battle hard to defeat Fulham 2-1 with a Haaland injury time penalty. That's 18 in 11 in the league for Haaland. City at home are just awesome, though, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, they're a frightening proposition at home. And I think this is their 4th game in all competitions in a trot at home. So they're going to be huge favourites. This is a difficult one to kind of get any value out in backing City at home. They've got to be part of an accumulator, or how many goals are going to score, or who's going to score. I was looking at the game. They're on a 16-game winning run at home, and in those 16 games, they've scored 61 goals. It's incredible, frightening. So, I mean, to make a case for Brentford, I mean, they've won 1 in 9 in all competitions. They've only won 3 of 14 Premier League games. So going to the Etihad this weekend, I give them little to no hope whatsoever.
We're in slump, aren't they, Brentford?
Yeah, real slump at the moment. And I think if Thomas Frank hadn't done such good work there and he'd created an identity in a club, I think he'd been under a little bit more pressure than he is, because nobody really talks about him and his job. They've slipped down the table and they're really struggling for results at the moment.
Go on then, give us a score.
Oh, it's a comfortable one for City for me. I mean, you saw the way that they got past Fulham last week. They've won 7 of the last 8 Premier League games, but they're still not top. They want to be top. 4-0 City win. Haaland to get on the score sheet again.
4-0 is fantastic.
I don't think. Do you know what the funny thing is? I don't think you get much value in that, will you?
No.
A 4-0 win and Haaland to score.
Haaland's about to have 6 weeks off.
Yeah, go and play a bit of golf, a bit of relaxation, and start again.
Right, so City is the early kick-off. Let's go to the 3 o'clock kick-offs on Saturday, starting with Bournemouth versus Everton. Everton have never won in 5 league visits to Bournemouth. How do you see this, Bournemouth-Everton?
There's 2 teams that are really struggling, Mark. 2 teams that are really struggling for form at the moment. Gary O'Neill went into Bournemouth, did an excellent job to start with.
He's unbeaten in the first 6 Premier League games, and then now lost 4 in a row.
Yeah, they had a great win, obviously, against... This was the reverse fixture of what happened in the midweek in the Carabao Cup. They put 4 past Everton. Everton have... I think Frank's under pressure there now. You know, they had a little bit of a... showing signs of recovery, shoots of recovery. They don't score enough goals for me. They don't create enough. And looking at this game again, another weird fact for you. So the 3 most creative players, you'd say, possibly for Everton: Anthony Gordon, Damari Gray and Dwight McNeil. Possibly. Jordan Pickford's got more assists than all 3 of them this year.
Right.
So that shows you where Everton are at the moment. And I think...
Nice start.
And there's no side in the Premier League that has faced more shots than Everton on goal. So that shows you what good form Jordan Pickford's in. The last 3 games, he's faced 56 shots in the Everton team. So there's 2 teams that are really struggling for a result. So I'm finding it hard to separate them. I don't think there'll be many goals in this. You bet's under 2 goals. I've gone for a Bournemouth 1-0 home win.
Bournemouth 1-0 home win. Good stat, by the way, Jordan Pickford. I like that. Good stat. Right, also at 3 o'clock, Liverpool versus Southampton. Liverpool have won 9 of their last 10 Premier League games against Southampton. And they're at home.
Yeah, it's a tough one for Nathan Jones of his first game as Southampton manager. Liverpool, you expect that they've turned the corner, and then the results slip again. I think for me, there was surprise winners at Tottenham last week. Tottenham were disappointed in the first half, but I thought Liverpool played well. Salah seems to be coming back to where you'd expect him to be. Back amongst the goals last week, but then they get beat the week before by Leeds at home, and that's certainly a result that nobody saw coming. So I think the unpredictability of Liverpool is still there, but I think they've still got far too much.
And after beating Man City, they go and lose to Forest in the next game.
So this would follow suit after beating a so-called bigger team, Tottenham, and then they play Southampton at home. I mean, Southampton got beat last week 4-1 against Newcastle, hence Hasenhüttl's sacking. Nathan Jones has come in, new manager. Not sure. He's done good things at Luton. He went to Stoke, which at the time was a decent club. They had a decent budget to work with. He had a 15% win rate at Stoke, and then went back to the comfort zone of Luton. So this is a big appointment for Southampton. I can't make a case for him at Anfield at the weekend. I've gone 3-0 Liverpool, and Salah again on the score sheet.
99 goals and assists in 99 Premier League appearances for Liverpool for Salah at Anfield. Right, staying with the 3 o'clock kickoffs. Nottingham Forest versus Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace are unbeaten in their last 8 Premier League games against promoted sides since losing to Leeds in February 2021.
Yeah, they had a good win last week against West Ham as well, didn't they? I like what Patrick Vieira's doing there. I think he's got a good mix of defensive players, and he seems frustrated at times because his attacking quality, he tries to get them all on the pitch at the same time, and I think that's a little bit to his downfall at times. They were very good at West Ham last week. Forest, for me, I think they're still struggling, Forest. I really do. I mean, they had a good win against Spurs in midweek, but it was a poor Spurs team. Forest have conceded the second most goals in the league, and you can't do that if you want to stay in this league. Home form's been decent. I mean, they're unbeaten in 4 in the all competitions at the City Ground, but I think this Premier League season is probably just one step too far for Forest.
Score?
I'm going to away win. I think it'll be a closely fought game, but I think I'm going to go 2-1 to Palace.
2-1 to Palace. Right. 2 of your old teams. Spurs versus Leeds United, 3 o'clock on Saturday. Tottenham have won 7 of their last 9 Premier League meetings with Leeds. And the last time Leeds got a victory was 2-1 in 2001. David O'Leary was in charge. You were on the bench.
That's how long ago it was. It shows it's a long time ago. And I think there's 2 teams here with recent form. They're in contrast. I mean, Spurs, I think they've won 2 of the last competition. They haven't won 3 at home. They're really struggling in the contest. For me, they start too defensive. You see that the way that they play, they've conceded first in the last 7 games, and it takes them that to get going, if you like. And they set up too defensively. They've missed Kulusevski hugely. Almost when he plays with the 3 centre-halves and the 2 wing-backs, he plays Højbjerg, Bentancur and Basuma. You're almost playing a 7 or an 8 at the back with Kane and Son at the front. They've been far too defensively. They've been far too pedestrian-like. But they're still where they are in the league. They've still picked the points up. They have to beat this Leeds team at the weekend. I mean, I had Jesse Marsch down for the sack last week, which he was. They were awful at home against Fulham. Then you look at the fixtures, they're going to Anfield and they've got Bournemouth at home.
1-2 on a bounce.
You're thinking if they get tonked at Liverpool, then they lose at home to Bournemouth, the manager's gone. All of a sudden, they've got 2 wins and they're sat mid-table. So it's a completely different proposition what Leeds bring, but I still think the Spurs have got too much for them.
Leeds went 8 games and they won 2 on a bounce.
Yeah, I mean, their form since beating Chelsea at home was terrible. I mean, I was one of the ones where the manager's he's bitten off more than he can chew. This job isn't for him. If they get well beaten at Liverpool and don't perform against Bournemouth, he kind of has to go. They have to make that decision before Christmas. I had him down and gone before Christmas, and I think he's still got a lot to prove. And I think, in all honesty, for the Leeds fans and for the club, those 2 results might not be as good as the same, because he could keep his job and they could revert back to the way that they played and he could end up taking Leeds down. Those 2 results have saved his job, but in the long term, I'm not so sure whether that's the good thing for the club or not.
Go on then, give us a score.
It's going to be tight, really tight. Spurs defensively are poor. They always concede the first goal, but I think they've got enough to beat Leeds because Leeds are fragile. 2-1 Tottenham.
2-1 Spurs. That's a 3 o'clock kickoff. Staying with the 3 o'clock kickoffs, West Ham versus Leicester.
2 teams managers under pressure. I mean, Brendan Rodgers, Leicester, they stuck with him from the start of the season, and they're starting to get fruition from that because they really have turned the corner. But David Moyes, I think for the first time in a long time, he's under a real bit of pressure at West Ham. Their inconsistency. They went out of the cup midweek to Blackburn. I know it was on penalties to a much changed Blackburn, but they seem to pick up, and then they lost games. For me, Leicester, Brendan Rodgers, I like what he's done. I mean, I'm looking at the record here. They've only lost one of the last 5, and that was against Manchester City.
Yeah, he did panic, to be fair, did he?
They've only conceded 1 in their last 5, which was that Kevin De Bruyne free kick against Manchester City. So I think Leicester are a completely different proposition, but West Ham seem to get results when their back's against the wall. I mean, they've only won 1 of the last 5 Premier League games, but they need a result. And I think a battling West Ham is enough to get a result. But I think Leicester are in a different place, and especially with Maddison now, I think he'll be elated being called up into the World Cup.
Go on, give us a score.
2-2. Maddison on the score sheet.
Well, Maddison, 13 goals and 9 assists in 2022. 6 goals so far this season, and that's why he is on the plane to the World Cup. Right, before we talk about the 2 late games in the Premier League, let's have a full roundup of the Championship with Matt Humes.
Another interesting weekend in the Championship as well. Friday night football from St Andrews' Birmingham favourites to get the better of Sunderland. Watford are favourites as well on Saturdays. They head to Aston to take on Bristol City. The Blades, you can back them at even money as they take on Cardiff in South Wales. A big game in the Midlands as well. Coventry favourites on a great run of form, taking on QPR after topping the table a few weeks ago. They have not won any of their last 3. They need a result to recover from that. Swansea favourites as they go to struggling Huddersfield, although they're looking for back-to-back wins after midweek success. And then Hull recovering after a poor week of results. They take on a Reading side, just 1 win in 6 now for Paul Ince's men. So that's the first half of games. One in the second half, Luton are odds on. No Nathan Jones and defeated midweek. Would you take the 4-6 at home to Rotherham? A good weekend for them in midweek as well. Norwich 11-10 as they take on recovering Middlesbrough. Michael Carrick has got them ticking. Preston are favourites at Millwall. West Brom are odds on as they entertain Stoke. Wigan, managerless Liam Richardson sacked this week, 16 days after signing a 3-year deal. They take on Blackpool in a North West derby, and this one Sunday, another North West derby, an East Lancs derby. The top 2 of the Championship clash at Turf Moor as Burnley take on Blackburn. 8-13, Burnley in that one. That is the game of the weekend in the second tier.
Thanks, Matt. Right, let's go to the 5:30 kick-off in the Premier League. Looking forward to this. Newcastle versus Chelsea. Is Graham Potter under real pressure at Chelsea already? Chelsea have lost their last 2 Premier League games. Now, the last manager to lose 3 consecutive league games was Mourinho in November 2015.
I think he's under pressure, I do. I think he's yet to find a way of playing. He's tried Sterling at wing-backs, he's tried different ways of playing, but results, we're in a results business, and Chelsea are 7th at the moment, and that's not where Chelsea want to be. We've gotten through in the Champions League, in the last 16 in the Champions League, but he beat a poor AC Milan side. He came in, had a couple of good results against lesser teams in the Premier League, if you like, but I think it shows where Newcastle have come as well, that we're actually looking at this game now. I can't remember any time in recent history where you would get Newcastle and Chelsea and Newcastle would be the favourites, whether it be at St James's or at Stamford Bridge. That just shows the turnaround in Newcastle, and it shows where Chelsea are at the moment, lacking in confidence, lacking in form. In all honesty, Mark, I think this is the last place that Graham Potter needs to be going this weekend, because Newcastle are flying.
I think Newcastle have got an outstanding chance of certainly top 4 football, because when Europe starts again, there's going to be some very tired players, and Newcastle do not have the distraction of Europe.
No, they don't have the distraction of Europe. They've got 4 wins in a row in all competitions. Shows you how well they've done. As we're talking today, Almiron, Player of the Month, Eddie Howe, Manager of the Month. They're a surprise package. They've gone to Tottenham, they've got results. They've played against big teams and got results. I like what he's doing there. I think he's built slowly. They've not gone out and bought world-class stars. He's built for the situation last year to keep him in the league. He's built on that, and it's work in progress. I think he's done an amazing job, and I think...
Score?
I've gone for a Newcastle win. I know they're odds on favourites, but I think Chelsea are lacking so much confidence at the moment. 2-0 Newcastle.
2-0 Newcastle. Right, late game on Saturday night is Wolves versus Arsenal. Arsenal are top of the league, and let's be honest, Paul, it might hurt as an Spurs player. They deserve to be top of the league.
I'm just waiting for the bubble to burst. I can't wait for that bubble to burst.
No, but I think a lot of us have thought that they are going to slip up at some point.
Yeah.
And they haven't.
And he's had a couple of tests along the way as well, and they got knocked out at the Carabao Cup this week, uncharacteristically. So this will be another test for him. But I mean, going to Wolves, I mean, they're desperate to get Lopetegui in, desperate to get the new manager in after the World Cup. It's not worked what they've done this year. The combination of conceding far too many goals and not scoring enough goals has been a huge problem for them. I mean, I look at them now, they've conceded at least got 3 goals in 3 of the last 4 games. And they're playing against an Arsenal team who are free-flowing, going forward, top of the league. What Arteta's done there, you know, it can't be underestimated. It's taken him time, and he's had the time to do it, but you've got to give him a hell of a lot of credit for what he's done.
Come on then, give us a prediction.
I think the last week's win at Chelsea, it was massive for them. You look at their last 7 games, they've won 6 and drawn 1. I can't see anything but an Arsenal win. They're too strong. Wolves defensively are poor. I'm going 3-0 Arsenal.
3-0 Arsenal, and if they do win, they're top of the table at Christmas, of course, with break coming up, because they don't play again until after Christmas. And last time the top of the table was 2008. They didn't win the league that year, though. I still think City will win the league. Right, let's move to Sunday. Brighton, Aston Villa, 2 o'clock, live on Sky.
They've been good, Brighton.
Yeah, won the last 2.
They've won the last 2, but they
that
were
result at
good.
Chelsea was outstanding.
Before De Zerbi came in, when he came in initially, they didn't win, but they were good. I saw at Manchester City the way that they play with Trossard and Solly March. They're a real goal threat. Under Potter, they were a little bit more conservative, and they were playing well, dominating games without scoring goals. But the way he's set this team up, this team now score goals, and they look a danger going forward. Villa under Emery, it's going to take him time.
Yeah, had a good win at home against Manchester United last Sunday. Yeah.
That's the perfect example of a new manager bounce. But then they go to Old Trafford in the week and they're putting a performance like they did. Yes, Manchester United were good. It was a much changed team. But after the weekend, you would expect them to kick on. Dendoncker coming back into the team for Villa has been good. That's been a key for them. And the partnership that he's picked up with Lewis in centre midfield there has been good for them. They're 13th in the table. They're almost... They need to secure Premier League safety, which is why they changed the manager. But then they need to improve. Emery's not a manager that's going to come in and just accept staying in the Premier League. That club is a huge football club. The budget that they've got and where they are, they should be higher up the league. And that's the next thing, progression. First of all, for Villa, they need enough points to stay in this league, and then they need to show progression. But it's not going to be an easy game going down to the South Coast.
Come on in.
I think it'd be a tough game, but there's two strikers in this game that I like. I like Ollie Watkins and I like Trossard.
Trossard's in the Belgian squad.
Yeah, both of them to score 1-1.
1-1. Right then, I think this is a big game for Manchester United. I know they won in the Carabao Cup on Thursday night, but after that defeat to Aston Villa, and it's going to be so tough to finish in the top 4, I think this is a big game for Ten Hag, and he goes to Fulham. Fulham have just won 2 of the last 25 Premier League games against Manchester United.
Different proposition Fulham this year, aren't they?
Yeah.
They look good. I mean, with Mitrovic scoring the goals, I know he's injured last weekend, but the way that he's got Willian playing, he's got what Arsenal couldn't get out of him. He seems to have rejuvenated him as a player. The formation that he plays, the win at Leeds, they're hard to beat now, Fulham. They're a completely different proposition. Willian Pereira in there. But I think I like Manchester United. I like what he's doing. He's taking his time and he's seeing Manchester United as a big club now, as what kind of under Solskjaer for 3 years. It was kind of a bit of, it wasn't the Manchester United that we know. It was lackadaisical. It was a bit, okay, yeah, fair. But now he's got this club by the scruff of the neck. Before the Villa game last weekend, there were 9 games undefeated, which is where Manchester United should be. Casemiro, for me, has been an inspirational signing.
Yeah.
You look at his age and you look at the contract that he's on, people question that, myself included. You look at the length of contract he's got, you say he gives you 3 years, and then what does he give you after that, apart from taking money from the club? But I think he's a different level to anything they've got. With him, Eriksen, Fernandes, he's getting it right there, he really is. And I think this is a lot stronger Manchester United than they were 6 to 12 months ago. I like the look of this team, I like the look of what he's doing, and I don't think that Fulham will cause him a problem this weekend. And he's getting the best out of Rashford. He's been absolutely outstanding, he really has.
Yep, brilliant player, Rashford, playing to his full potential at the moment. Come on, give us a score.
It's going to be comfortable for United. I think they'll win 2-0, and I've gone for Rashford to score again. So Martial back in action again in midweek, but I think Rashford will keep doing what he's doing. Booster getting back in the England squad. He seems fitter. He seems stronger. Looked at his interview after the game midweek. He seems happier. He looks back to where he was at his best when he played for England in the Euros.
Right, we'll talk the World Cup again in a moment, but let's just recap your selections. So, Paul's gone for Man City 4, Brentford 0, Bournemouth 1, Everton 0, Liverpool 3, Southampton 0, Nottingham Forest 1, Crystal Palace 2, Spurs 2, Leeds 1 in the Paul Robinson derby, West Ham 2, Leicester 2, Newcastle 2, Chelsea 0, Wolves 0, Arsenal 3, Brighton 1, Aston Villa 1 and Fulham 0, Manchester United 2. Right, before we talk World Cup again with Paul, let's get the latest outright betting with Matt.
Oh, we're just over a week away from the start of the World Cup. So let's say with the betting as it stands. And, well, the squads are in. And Brazil, what an absolute incredible range of talent they have got going forward. And they are, with the climate and temperatures considered as well, the South Americans 4-1 favourites to win the World Cup in Qatar. The reigning champions France, have you seen their front seven? Wow, Didier Deschamps has his disposable. In fact, all 26 are high-class internationals. They're at 6-1, same price as Argentina. A lot of clamour behind Leo Messi. It's going to be his last World Cup. They are 6-1 to claim a title. England in there at 7-1. Gareth Southgate named his 26-man squad as well. 8-1 for the Spain. Can they roll back the years with a young side? The Germans, never write them off. Write them off at your peril. They're available at 10-1. Can Belgium finally get over the line, the final tournament of this golden generation? They are at 12-1, alongside their lowland neighbours, Netherlands, who I give a bit of a squeak to. They man 1-11. They're a match for anybody. They could go well at 12. Portugal, Ronaldo and co, they're at 12-1. And people's dark horses are Denmark. Don't rule them out at 28-1. Cannot wait for it to get underway. Keep an eye on these as well, because with Fred around, these prices may well change in the run-up to kick-off a week on Sunday.
And Paul is part of our special preview show, which will be available on Monday night. Frankie Foster's a host, better looking than me and you, mate. He was on Love Island. He's a really, really nice fella. And former Welsh striker Rob Earnshaw. Look out, that on YouTube from Monday night. That'll be the best betting preview you will see out there. Right then, Paul. How well do you think England will do?
It's the question. Listen, on their day...
It's not a joking matter.
On their day, they can beat anybody. And they've got a realistic chance of winning this tournament. Yes, they have. If they get out the group, you get a little bit of luck. It's not going to be easy for them. If they top the group or come second, they're likely to play the Netherlands or Senegal, two very, very strong teams. If they top the group, potentially quarter-final opponents would be France. So it's not going to be an easy run to the final if they are to do it. Get out the group, and in a one-off game, they can beat anybody. Realistically, do I think they can win the tournament? No, I don't. I think there's a lot bigger and better nations out there. I don't think Matt had it far wrong with his bets there, apart from England being higher up the list than I would have put them. I think Belgium are probably stronger favourites than England are at the moment, in all honesty. I think there might be a bit of patriotic betting going on there.
Well, there's always going to be, yeah.
Always will be.
Yeah.
But with Brazil and Argentina there, and France, French squad's going to be depleted without Kante, without Pogba. They're the two that sit and allow the front 6 or 7 to do the damage. The strength and depth that those three nations have got in their squad. I mean, you look at the names in that Brazil squad. I mean, I started doing my prep for the World Cup for the work, and some of the names in that squad, the starting 11, the names that have missed out. Look, Firmino can't even get in the squad. That's the strength of Brazil. Argentina, with Messi been his last World Cup. The Netherlands, I think they've got a lot of quality, but I just don't think they've got enough quality to get them beyond the quarterfinals. Belgium with Roberto Martinez, this is the kind of last go for that generation, if you like. I think there's a lot stronger cases for a lot more nations than England, but on the flip side of that, in a double-edged sword, I think they've still got an opportunity to win this. I really do.
Right, well, I'll let you have a charity bet on England.
Yeah.
You can have a £100 charity bet on England.
Right.
And I'll let you have a £100 charity bet on someone else. Come on.
Can I double my England and have England and Harry Kane golden boot?
All right, OK.
Because that might be better odds, because I fancy him to have a golden boot. The opportunity they've got in the
All right,
group.
I'll let you have that, but pick another team as well.
Brazil.
OK.
Brazil. I know it's
so two charity bets,
pick.
Brazil, and you're going to have the double of England to win and Harry Kane to be top goal scorer.
I know it's a bit obvious picking a Brazil, but let's make some money for charity, because I really do think they're going to be the ones.
Right, Paul, really enjoyed your company, behaviour from Paul throughout the World Cup, including our preview show on Monday. Look out for that on Monday as well. That's it for this week. Enjoy the Premier League, and then it's World Cup time.